So a good one, a good one to you, and thanks. And I believe we are live. So good to be with you, guys. Lovely to see well, so many of you here also on the YouTube, and the lovely messages taking in over there. And thank you to all the patrons for supporting me, and a special thank you to Suzanne and Kevin for your generous donations. Those were really appreciated. So so yes, just thank you for being here as well. And we are working with the Intergalactic Council, and without further ado, I think I will just bring them through. And if you're not aware, don't remember, they're kind of the collected, the UN of the UN of the Milky Way Galaxy, and so the collected consciousness of the Milky Way Galaxy, and they say they're situated in the 10th dimension, and you can ask them about all these things, and they're good with all kinds of stuff. So I hope you enjoy and take something good from it. Much love to you guys. We are so happy to join you, coming to you from the 10th dimension, bringing you codes of pure light and codes of heightening vibrations we transmit to you in this moment. We have entitled this transmission, Never a Bad Day. Well, what do we mean by this? We mean that the days, the way you perceive time in these cycles, these chapters of light and dark, they are being replaced by a broader, a wider perspective. And therefore you may feel that, well, these moods that somehow cloud your perception, these passing chapters that somehow make it difficult for you to see the clear path ahead, that they are being cleared out and they are being put into a context where, rather than good or bad, negative or positive, you see the trajectories, the developments that you are experiencing, and you feel the light flushing into your experience as you do so. And so realize, as we are connecting to a global community here, that on some of you, the sun has already set, and on some of you, the sun is still shining. Maybe it is just coming up. And therefore, you are gathering the energy of you as a global species. You are focusing a frequency of you as someone who understands both the light and the dark simultaneously, who exists on both sides of the planet, on different states of energy at the same time. This is what it means to move into a higher state of being, what you call ascension. This is what we have been assisting you in, along with so many of our member species directly invested in the human project and development. We are very proud of what you are becoming. And we sense that this evening we will also be commenting on some turmoils and upsets in your collective sphere, things that seem distorted, disturbed, and confrontational. And we would like to let you know that, well, all birthing is a process that's hard to observe from the outside, and that comes with certain ripples of pain, but that also gives way to new life form, and that indeed renews the life that is already here. So with gratitude for the life that you cultivate and that the life that we get to share here this evening, we bring you the love from the 10th dimension, assuring you that you are indeed an equal part of this galaxy, and much is riding on the harmonious development of humankind. Therefore, blessings and love to you this day.
Greetings and thanks for coming.
Greetings, dear Kevin. Thank you for being with us.
So our first question comes from Steve Frederick. He asks, much love for exploring our highest excitement. Question, Any messages for me from my divine inner being for encourage me to having faith and staying in the knowing that I will always find to feel more in control of my physical and mental condition and revoke or transmute interference in my field that doesn't serve my will in my waking state.
Yes, this is a beautiful invocation insofar that you have focused your intention. And here you certainly bring forward a lot of, well, this prospective future that is, let us call it that, into your reality. But we would like to challenge you a little bit, dear one, by asking you whether or not it wouldn't be helpful for you to revise your concept of control. That is, you may feel that this is indeed the struggle that you have been undergoing. This is the central conflict. It is between grasping, trying to fit in what is going on, and then releasing, trying to experience what is going on. And well, this is a situation that is highly exacerbated in your case. That is, you as an individual have come here also to experience these intensities to a very hard degree. And that is why your awakening and symptoms are so challenging, and why you may feel that the energies are hounding you to some extent, that they are also relentlessly presenting themselves in your life. But think of yourself in control by being the one who trims the sails rather than the one who operates the engine. So it's actually returning to a more antiquated metaphor to bring you into a state that is more organically attuned to the rhythms of the situation. That is, in every situation, there are certain actions that are prescribed for and certain actions that are unwanted. And in your situation, you may actually want to take a break from the 5D. That is, you may want to actively do things that would provoke a sense of low vibrality in you. We don't mean to do anything detrimental to your body or pollute yourself with unnecessary intoxicants, but we do mean, for instance, exposing yourself to content that is of a less stimulating character. That would be, for instance, allowing yourself to, to put it stereotypically, watching more laugh track television and less about Stargate portals and ascension. And that's not to say that you're not following your higher calling and that you will be brought back to this information, but it's simply if you can actually force yourself to go into the counterbalance, to realize that the energies that are sweeping into your life, they are already so forcefully compelling you to change, and they are doing this on your own momentum. So the control that you manage is actually trimming the sails of your vessel so that they don't get ripped to shreds by these incoming winds. Instead, you allow yourself to slowly drift along and be thrown about a little by the waves, with the confidence that when this storm clears out, then you will have the opportunity to set your course anew and get back on track, and maybe even, wink wink, discover some unknown lands or tropical islands that hold strange mysteries and adventures for you. Much love and many blessings to you in this, dear brother.
Great, thank you for that. And I'll just add real quickly from my own experience of wanting to expand that the natural flow of the universe is, in my perspective, just not a continual expansion. There's the expansion state, and then there's the contraction state, which I feel a lot of us we don't go into on our own because we feel like that we're not expanding by contracting. But ultimately, once you come back in and watch some TV or don't research Stargates for a while, that more space opens up. So I just kind of like to add that from a personal level.
we very much appreciate the perspective, and we can also confirm that these energies that are floating about right now, especially with the portal opening that has taken place in this month, that, well, these energies are already in place. They are already flowing in. And so the expansion part of it is taken care of. And with that, it is this opposite energy of, let's call it consolidation, that plays out instead. The need to also allow for things to settle. And it's very interesting because you know this intuitively with so many things, that if you shake a snow globe, you realize that it also needs time before you can shake it and have that full experience of it stirring again. Otherwise it just becomes a mess and a whirlwind. And that's a very, very helpful perspective. And we also sense that it's helpful that you introduce this in this moment, dear Kevin, as it is affirming to the general process of the community. And so much love and many blessings for this communion.
Excellent. So our next question comes from Carla. She is sending love and light to Ukraine and Russia. She asks specifically, will the council be able to stop any nukes if they are used? And then I would just like to go on with, other than answering that question, yeah, I'm sure all of our viewers would like to know your perspective on what's going on, and obviously not telling us what's going to happen, but maybe dropping a few breadcrumbs on how this will positively affect the world.
Yes, we are very glad that you also ask us to elaborate, see, because what you are essentially doing is that you are phrasing a human intention around this situation. And what you are stepping into, as you of course have been informed by us and the many, many entities that make up our energy that have been communicating with you, but that is that you create your own reality. And so we are being a little facetious, and we remind you that we love you so much, but why would we protect you from the nukes? Because we could just deal with a slightly alternate timeline where the nukes didn't land. That we're playing around with you, and we love you so much. And we have assured you that you are not on a timeline where nuclear weapons will be used to the general detriment of the species. That is, you will not see these types of major strategical nuclear attacks that you have been fearing for some generations. But at the same time, we will also like to remind you that you do create your own reality. And this means that it's actually you that have chosen to be on a timeline that does not experience nuclear attacks. And there are many versions of, well, dear Carla, who asked these questions, or other human beings here who are exploring other realities where there may be, let's say, more radioactive experiments taking place. And that's simply to say that you actually hold the power. You have chosen to be here. And we are not coming to save you in the sense that we do not need to come and save you. You are unfolding the situations that you need to learn. And so a point that our friend here, the vessel, has been returning to, and he's asking us to apologize because he seems to feel he sounds like a broken record. But the point is, well, this recycling of fashion, that it's weird for him that the teenagers outside his front door looks like the teenagers did when he was a teenager. And then he saw that the Super Bowl halftime show, which he didn't keep up with, but was hits from when he was a teenager. And so he has been wondering about this reiteration of codes, what's happening, since it seems like time is recycling things that it has already played out in very recent memory, that is in approximately half his lifetime. It seems like culture is trying to reinvent itself into the same mold. The same you see in those constant reboots of old movie ideas that were originally original, and now are husks of franchises that just try to keep people enticed into a new format. Well, these are all signs that you are in a state of cultural crisis, that you do not know where to look or what to latch onto with these new developments. And so these repetitions become faster and faster. A very mundane example from your personal life, if you just get out of a relationship, you may feel compelled to, well, contact a former girlfriend or someone that you once had another relationship with, because you're trying to reactivate these patterns that already have an established order, a way of making sense of the world. Now, well, how does all this pop culture and old girlfriends relate to Russia and Ukraine? Well, notice that you are in many ways recycling an old narrative of conflict in your story. And this is a sure sign that these energies are tiring out. These are not original warlike energies. These are not like the two First World Wars you saw that were, let's face it, very creative in their ways of bringing forward new human experiments in all their horrors. This is rather a reactivation of certain patterns and conflicts that you have seen, well, partially during your Cold War and also partially during the era you call the 90s. And so this is rather an activation by, let's say, the parts of humanity that are trying to keep you operational, trying to keep you within the boundaries of what is reasonable, and doing so by activating and operating fear codes. It is these factions of humanity that are activating this fear and activating this as anything else than, let's say, a minor skirmish that is settling some very complex local conflicts that, well, have a lot of intricacies to them. That is, do not fear for where you are going globally, but rather see how this fear of war is sort of being replayed in a micro form. It's being reactivated because it's essentially the fear code that the powers that be have left to move, well, human autonomy away from the individual. And so what you do is you turn your attention away from fearing this, and you instead realize that you create your own reality. And this means that you can create a timeline and indeed have created a reality where you will not suffer a major nuclear apocalypse. We hope that this message has served you to some extent, and we can assure you that the nature of warfare and conflict will change greatly in future generations, though of course there will always be exchanges of confrontational energy, even in the higher dimensions.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. So Carla's second question says, it is about ley lines. Who made them and how? What is their purpose? I'm just gonna restart that second question for you. It is about ley lines. Who made them and how? What is their purpose? Are they or were they used as a transport system for ancient people? How do they work? Thank you.
Yes, this is a very good question. Well, they weren't exactly made. It is more that we apologize for that pause, but we are trying to phrase this in terms that are relatable to your level of understanding. And we mean no offense, but we will just say that if you think of your energy bodies, you will notice that they weren't necessarily created, but they are rather the energetic composite of the phenomenon of a human body. That is, that the material body can't really exist without the energy body, or vice versa. And so it is with the ley lines. Well, much as, for instance, the magnetic arrangement of the globe is also a part of its physical makeup, so the ley lines are also, let's say, the aura of your planet. This aura is then non-locational. So the ley lines are also a way that, well, the specific frequencies and information of planet Gaia is transmitted back to the galactic core, and from this core back to the universal center. And that information here is also regulated. So you could think of it as a kind of energetic grid work and a kind of protective structure, but also as a type of internet or informational superstructure that can be interacted with and manipulated from afar, and that influences what takes place on the planet. And so the ancient civilizations, this is primarily in the very ancient civilizations of Lemuria and Mu, also other ancient civilizations of other species, such as the Tukwel, the reptile species of approximately 230 million years ago, and so many of these other ascension species that have, well, have played out their early existence on this planet Earth. They found out, just as you will in time, that you can manipulate these ley lines, that you can actually access these ley lines to teleport yourself around the planet. You can use it to astral project yourself around the planet. Indeed, this is actually how it is technically done in the easiest manner. And you can also use these ley lines to tap into the informational superstructure of the universe. So we can say that the etheric information that's being translated here is being filtered through the ley lines of the Earth. And so they weren't built in particular, but they were discovered and then learned to, and then discovered to also have certain technological capacities. And here you may, well, marvel at some of the archaeological discoveries that could be on Earth underground. That is certain alloys that you have yet to construct yourself, that actually worked much as energy conducing coils that redirected and funneled the energy of these ley lines into, well, electric apparatus, making free energy or etheric energy available. So these are some of the perspectives, and we hoped this satisfied your curiosity. We bless you for this question, as for all your questions, and we transmit our love in the project of human development.
Excellent. Yeah, that was very informative, and I'm sure there's more to ask beyond that at a later date. Laura would like to come forward and ask a question or two.
My greetings and love to you all.
Our love to you, Laura. A pleasure to be with you.
I appreciate the time. I have been encouraged repeatedly just to write as a means of connecting with my guides. And so I finally have been working with some automatic writing, and this process of sort of going into an altered state and then drawing ovals until something starts to come through. And so I seeking just some confirmation, I think, from you all. In this particular session, I asked to communicate with Evelyn Clock, a Syrian guide that's gifted me with their attention. And so I had asked if they had connected with me to teach me something new as far as healing modalities, and they said no, that they were to assist me with what I was already doing. And so then I asked, what message do you have for me today? And I was just doing the ovals, and pretty soon I started doing the infinity symbol over and over. And so I asked, is that the infinity of the angelic healing powers symbol? And they said yes. And I said, what about it? And they said, infinity is the key. And I said, how to connect to infinity? And they said, you have the wiring to connect with infinity. And I said, how do you do it? Is it just intention? And they said, yes. And I said, do I intend that I am infinity? Yes. Infinity amplifies the energy, become the vibration. And I asked how you are doing it. And then I said, how do I use this to help others? And they said the heart. And then, so the symbol for angelic healing powers is a circle with a triangle in it. And then infinity symbols to the right and left and below. And then there's a cross with a straight line, like a star in the center of the triangle. So I saw the circle begin to spin, like become a sphere, and the triangle began to spin within it. And then the infinity was around it. And then the energy came from the star, like from the heart of the being, to connect that energy with others. And so that was the experience. So I guess my first question is, did I in fact connect with Eftling clock? And I'm okay if I didn't. I just am trying to understand. So that would be my first question. Was that message actually from Eftling clock?
Well, we would encourage you to say, that is, we are evaluating right now, dear Laura, which question is more helpful to you in your development. See, that is usually the way we evaluate levels of truth from our outlook or perspective. We would never lie to you human beings, but we do prefer to bring forward information that we feel is helpful and instrumental in the discovery of your own powers. And so if you had the feeling that you connected, well, you certainly did. But the very important thing here is not necessarily where the signal is coming from, but how you are perceiving it. So you actually expand more and more of your ability to, well, both trust where these messages are coming from, but also to take these messages in by relying on the emotional resonance that you experience within it. So yes, we are happy to say that it was what you can think of as the personality prism, or your personal counterpart known as Eftling clock, residing in the six-dimensional Sirians that was coming forward. But it was also what he was funneling down was information that was being, let's say, translated from a higher angelic state of reality that he had greater access to, and that, well, it was perceived, or you, your higher self, and him and all your guides, they came to the conclusion that it would be best if he was the one to sort of deliver this message to you. So that's just to nuance it. But indeed, notice when you experience this type of sight beyond sight, you experience the living symbol actually becoming animated, beginning to stir you. That is a signature that magic is happening. And if you feel that this magic has an angelic radiance to it, then whatever guide is bringing it through is actually, we can say, the postman bringing you this gift from your higher self.
I appreciate that. And that was my next question, was, did I accurately gather the information that they were trying to present to me? Or did I miss something, or is there anything you would add to that?
It's very helpful to trust that these things are revealed in the capacity that you are able to take them in. That is, notice, well, one of the often repeated instructions about entering the kingdom of God is the idea of again becoming as a child. And notice what children never do is that they never go, well, am I getting this right? They watch a movie, and even though they only understand the moving shapes and figures, then that was satisfying for them. And then the rest will follow. It will come as it needs to come. So the information that came forward that you were processing was exactly the information that you were capable of processing. And there are underlying layers in it, but those are kind of, they have a time release, and they will also come forward in time. So also enjoy this raising of the dough before you bake the bread.
Fair enough. I'm so appreciative. Thank you so much. I love you.
We love you too. Bless you and thank you.
Hello, Galactic Council, Intergalactic.
It is a pleasure to be with you this day, Suzanne. If we are not mistaking, this is who we are talking to.
Who am I talking to? Are you a group or an individual?
Yes, we believe sometimes we have brought forward different representatives, but this day, well, we are simply coming forward as a group entity or a 10th dimensional collective. We are happy to send an emissary if you would like to speak to a particular individual.
Oh, thank you. I was curious about that. I felt that it was not someone maybe I had talked with before. So I was curious. I have two hopefully quick questions. I loved the information about ley lines. I'll be with you in 1 minute. Okay. So I love the information about ley lines, but is there a ley line near my house? Or am I pulling energy from one?
Well, you are pulling energy from what we could call the Central Atlantic ley line, or there are several of them, and they do, though in far greater detail, but do approximately line up with your grid of longitudes and latitudes. So that's to say that you may experience that around, we believe, this Bay Area. There might be a central Bay Area approximately at this part of the coast that is it called something like the Chesapeake Bay or something, that
Yes.
Within this area you may feel that there is a certain confluence of energy that's concentrating, well, this particular confluence of ley line energy. So this is where, let's say, the Atlantic, there's an Atlantic flux that's colliding with a more stable continental energy, and with that you may sense that there is a certain, let's call it volatility or electricity, a charged atmosphere in the area where you reside.
Okay, thank you. One quick question. And then I have to go, but the other evening, I was in my room, I turned around, I walked through a large person, wasn't a person, being. And it was really kind of funny. I'm like, wow, they're getting more noticeable. And it was a large person, larger than me. It was just a big, I don't know how to explain it. But I just kind of turned around abruptly, and I turned around, and when I walked through this person, I knew that I just walked either through something. I had tingles and all kinds of things. And I was just curious, what was it that I sensed?
And this is one of the, well, they have different names, but one of the ascended beings sharing the planet with you, and you often call them the Sasquatch. And these are becoming far more active in your area in particular, but in the North American continent in particular, they are stirring some of the suppressed energies of the landscape. And you may feel that well, this is a guide of yours, so he is connecting to you. And the name that we sense that he's giving us is Urt. That's an U, and R, and a D. You can also spell it differently, of course, but it's very much connected to to you allowing your natural spirit, that's almost to say your gorilla instinct, or that part of you and that part of your human nature that belongs in the woods, to also encourage that to come forward. And that may also soothe some of the electricity that you feel around you, and notice again from the perspective that you create your own reality, that you are even now finding yourself also in a situation where there is some electrical energy around you, things going on, things to do, and this is really, well, the woodland spirit is connecting to you to offer you the counterbalance to this.
That's great. Thank you. I knew it was something not unpleasant. It was something I should be aware of, and it wasn't a negative thing at all. So, but I just, I was kind of surprised. I think I surprised it. So there you go. But thank you very much for your time. I have to go back to work now, but I really enjoy meeting with you all.
Yes, we were so happy that you joined us, and we would just remind you that it was also a sign that your frequency is raising, that you these beings are becoming more visible to you. So blessings in that frequency rising.
Thank you. Bye.
Our love. Bye.
Yes, hello. Greetings, Council of Light. It's Salish over here.
Yes, we sense that. It is a pleasure to be with you, dear Salish.
And likewise. Okay, for me, if you could give me your perspective and suggestions on living more from the heart center and being in the now, and incorporating a non-dual state.
These are very insightful questions, and notice that they actually form a type of trinity, because they all speak to the same essential emotional reality. That is, the heart space is exactly the undivided state. And the problem with entering the heart space for human beings is that it forces you to come into a degree of presence that is essentially unpleasant, because for many human beings, that is for most of you actually, there is a lot of tension, pressure, unresolved things, desires, urges calling you, strange and effervescent feelings that prevent you from coming into this restful state of the heart space. And so that is why you may actually notice that the feeling that most easily bring you there, though this is not a feeling that's very celebrated, but is actually the feeling of grief. So crying tears, sorrowful tears, not hysterical tears or tears of rage, but these tears of grief, this is actually the feeling that in many ways is the signature of the heart. Grief is the language of the heart exactly because it accepts the imperfection of the presence. It accepts that there is something undivided that is unpleasant, that it cannot keep separate. And yet it allows for this to be in the heart space. And this is a non-dual reality. And so you may notice that grief is actually, it's a very strange emotion, because it's an emotion that's pleasantly horrible. It's something that you really do not want to be feeling, and at the same time is incredibly restorative, healing, and celebratory, life affirming. It's something that announces itself as a clear message that you have lost something that was dear to you, that there was something in this life that you actually wanted to hold so close that it would not disappear. And that is keeping it in your heart. So these are the different aspects. It's moving into accepting that when you have something in your heart, it becomes an unbroken part of you. And since you exist in time, it means that it will be broken as it is taken from you. And this is the grief of the heart. This is the acceptance of the non-dual state. This is the deep emotional maturity that humanity is also moving towards.
Okay, and how far do you reckon I have reached on this path?
Well, it is a very good question, because, of course, what are your pinpointers here? What are you measuring yourself up against? Because you have certainly progressed very far as a soul. And well, this goes for all of you who are present here. The very fact that you are in a space where you are open to communicating with our energy. And this is not to say that there are not other things you can progress with, but you have indeed come to a very, very open, honest place where you are willing to transform when you are in a place where you are interacting with our energy or these messages or similar such messages or energies coming through in other venues and sites. That is to inform you then that you may sense there are still things that you can progress to in this lifetime. And this deals especially with your immediate family, with you accepting here also the limitations you have felt in your own role in this, and accepting the love that they still feel for you. And this is actually something that you can keep growing. But it's just to say that you are from a place where your heart is not necessarily being forced open as much as it is being, well, or it is not being pried open as much as it is being, well, gently revealed to you. And this is a much more helpful and joyful place to be in.
Thank you very much indeed.
Our love to you.
Excellent. Thank you. So I'm going to step forward and ask you 2 questions now.
Please do, dear Kevin.
So my first one deals with my trip to Hawaii, which I just got back from last night. And I did my best not to set many expectations, even though I had some things, that I wanted to experience there. And the one main one was receiving an ancient tattoo, the old ways of the Polynesians of tapping, called kaka'ui. And I had made some communications before I left, and I actually talked to Mas and our guides before about how to go about it. And it never came to fruition, and that's okay. I was a little bit bummed, but then definitely got over it, and we'll wait for divine right timing. So I guess my question is, why, in your perspective, why didn't it work out this time? And then as I move forward, there's 3 main men that do it there. And the first one is Keonye, and he's in Thailand right now. And he's the one that led me to his main protege, Camellia, and then another man named Kelly. Those are the three guys I was communicating with, and it was very spotty communication. It looked like it was promising, and then it kind of fell through. And then I'll just let you go on from there.
Well, there are certain factors feeding into this. Primarily, what went on was that you were not ready to make this commitment to this particular landscape. That is, it's quite a powerful technique. These more ancient techniques of tattooing, they have very strong energies of the land and the specific cultures that have used them to, let's say, hone in on the frequency that they wish to cultivate. So anyone who would go and receive this type of Polynesian tattoo would also make a type of commitment to return and work further with the energy. And here you may sense that this was not the time for you to connect to this Polynesian energy. That is, the landscape is not quite calling you. Also, you are in your developmental history as a spirit, you are more connected to the vast landscapes of the steppes and the heights of wild mountain ranges, more than, well, the crashing sea waves and these Pacific energies. They aren't necessarily as alive in your energy field. And so all these things were, let's say, the blocks that energetically prevented this from manifesting. Then you may also sense that you are a creature of transformation. And, well, tattoos are a type of binding spells, and this can be both positive and negative. But if you are actually in a place where you also prefer to be a free transformative agent that is quite mercurial and free-flowing in your expression, you may have sensed that there will be an element in your higher self that will try to avoid this type of focus by symbol.
Thanks. That was very, very helpful. So my next question, I'd like to take a little bit deeper dive into MIAO inhibitors. And I was led again to take some, and I started to use St. John's wort, which I'm feeling, and it feels good. And then there's a couple more, and then it's up to you if you want to dive into them individually or if you just want to speak about them holistically. And again, a bit beyond what, you know, they say on Google for what they mean. Of course, they help with, you know, low levels and higher levels of depression and anxiety. And I would just kind of like for you to go a little bit deeper and on a different road of how these substances work with our energy systems. So the other one is passion flower. The other one is Syrian rue. And then the fourth one is Opa magnolia, which is a flower or a bark from China.
Yes. You may realize that even though these have, well, some of the same basic pharmacologies, that is that they also work by preventing, or let's say preventing certain enzymes or certain transmitter agents to be broken down. They do have very specific qualities in their different energies. And so the Syrian rue is one that you may want to explore more as an incense base. If you were to look into the way that this is often used, where the parts of the world where it stems from, you will notice that this is something that you do well in ingesting in, let's say, more of an aromatic sense. If you begin to dose this directly, putting it into your body, you are committing to a type of diet that, well, you could explore. You personally, Kevin, being quite interested in these purging techniques, but it is something that you may want to wait with undertaking. That is, we sense that it will actually be better for you to do as you approach fall, for instance. Passion flower, on the other hand, has a very helpful frequency. You may sense that, well, from where you are coming and what you are looking for as a frequency modifier, this has the level of sort of whimsical, explorative energy to it that will be something that you feel enchants your life, because notice this is actually the element that you are often looking for to enchant your life. And this is what you have been seeking out different plants to do. And therefore, the passion flower in particular is also a flower that you could begin to play around with cultivating. And so we believe there might have been a third one that you also mentioned to us. And well, the translator is asking you to repeat the name, though we can give you the energetic reading without it.
Yeah, I can repeat. So St. John's wort.
Ah, yes. And there was a Chinese one.
Mm-hmm. The Chinese one was Hopa magnolia, also known as Magnolia officialis.
Yes, we are here with the flower. The St. John's wort is the one that you may, well, that is, we are actually structuring it here. So notice that use the Maui as a dietary supplement, that use it as an entire perch, use it as a project you can go into. You can use the passion flower as a recreative substance. You can even experiment with smoking it or creating certain teas or concentrates out of it, but treat this perhaps more as of a recreational character. The St. John's wort you can treat as a type of supplement, seeing that it has a very grounding energy and will not upset too much of your metabolism. And then the magnolia, treat it as an exquisite experience. That is, you may sense that this is a type of plant that also has, we will not say a level of necessarily toxicity to it, but it has a type of almost exquisite nightshade-like wickedness to it that well may make it suitable for late night explorations, but also maybe something that you would want to explore within a safe space. These are the different readings that we would like to provide. And do have fun with it. That is always our encouragement.
Excellent. That was very insightful and good guidance for me. I'd like to move on to the YouTube questions that are posted. And the first one comes from Yokin369. Hello. What do you think about the role of dairy, milk products on human health and the environment? Thank you.
Well, we sense that you may actually, connecting this to the former question, notice that, well, there have been certain research and certain hypotheses connected to the idea that the soma of the Vedic tradition was actually a preparation of Syrian brew that was combined with milk somehow, as it is described in the sources of the Rig Veda. And that is, you may sense that milk is quite the magical potion. And for those cheese lovers among you out there, you may also notice that, well, you can do some quite exquisite things with milk. And there are certain symbioses that you have reached with certain animals that have also helped you expand and explore as a species. For instance, your access to milk has given you easy access to proteins that you needed to build and maintain your cerebral structure. That is simply to offer some positive perspectives, because you are also an evolving species. And you may notice that you have become aware of, well, partially, let's say, the dubious moral implications of factory farming, of bringing forward other living or treating other living beings with nervous systems the way you do in systems where they are callously brought up only to be consumed. And this is something that you have become aware of. You are also becoming aware of the unhelpful influences of many of the gases released by cattle and the problem of keeping large pasture lands. So all these things are essentially things that are pointing to the fact that you may be also developing out of this type of connection to nature. And there may still be, well, a joy of keeping cattle around. Indeed, we know at least of one culture that are quite fond of sacred cows and also use these dairy products in certain religious contexts. And there you may sense there is actually something to be gained. So everything in moderation, everything in adaptation, everything with reverence and respect, and done with a sense of responsibility and with felt presence, is actually something that you can still gain from. But you may sense that, well, indeed, your access to more helpful sources of protein, or, well, the need to perhaps have greater areas of wildlife or reforested lands on your planet. These are all things that point to also the limitations of dairy. And so we will hope we were able to nuance this, but we do not wish to condemn anyone for any of their choices in consumption, though we are always looking to guide you into heightening your vibration and becoming your full selves. And some of that also implies changing in diet. Our love and blessings for this question.
Thank you for that. So our next question comes from Yana D. How can I personally make clear distinction between my body personality and my consciousness/awareness?
Well, it's a very, very good question. And again, as we were also speaking to dear Salish about non-duality, you may sense that, well, in the heartfelt presence, these two things, they aren't really separate. That is, your body, your emotional reality, and the observation of these things, they're all a part of, well, the continued field of you, which indeed is part of the continued field of everything. So in that sense, you may ask yourself, when is that this distinction necessary? Why would you like to make that distinction? Is it because it's also a little troublesome being in the body you, or is it because you would like to become more aware and more identified with the spiritual eternal side of yourself? And well, if it is the latter, then what you do is usually practicing techniques of observation. And so what you can ask, this is a very literal, helpful method of doing it, is, where is it that I'm seeing from? Where is it that I'm actually watching from? And so you will notice that behind your eyelids, it is as if someone is sitting, watching out through your eyes. But who's watching out through the eyes of that someone that's sitting there? And who's watching out through the eyes of that someone that's sitting there? And when you get good at this, if you actually identify with that, you get back to what is called sometimes witness consciousness, or the Godhead, or Purusha. This undying point of observation, of experience. Another way of accessing this is to see yourself, as it is done in near-death experiences, from above, to see that, well, the situation you are in, you actually have a type of 3D, or actually 5D energetic imprint of this, a type of almost sonar-like image around you that you can watch from above. This means that you are actually observing your reality from above and not necessarily through your eyes. This is just where that perspective is sort of rotated into for the convenience of everyday experience. It would be a little difficult, walking around in traffic or being on the bus if you saw everything from a bird's eye perspective. So these are direct techniques you can do this. You can always ask, who is it that's behind this layer that I'm watching? Where is the sensation behind the sensation? Where's the experience behind the experience? And this is the way that you get into that deep experiential layer of you, which is metaphysical reality, we could say. Enjoy your travel back to the source of the infinite point of view. Our love.
Great, thank you for that. So our next question comes from Sensian. Hello, beautiful beings. I am speaking and writing light language, and my question is, how does this affect me and others? Thank you.
Well, the very simple answer is simply that it helps readjust, realign, reconfigure your energy grid, your personal signature, and then it makes it vibrate at a higher level. And well, then, as you know, with these types of, let's say, high vibrational contagions, to use this expression, such as the thing that's going on right here, it affects other people positively if they're already attuned and somewhat receptive to these energies. That is, if their frequency is already within range, it can be slightly helped, aided, heightened by coming into contact with the light language that you or any given individual express. But if they come from a place where they are at a very different vibrational stage, it will feel irritating, annoying, and their aggressive may even be, or their response may even be aggressive. So this is often the way it goes with these high frequency codes. Often you will also just come off as crazy to people who isn't feeling it. And there's also a wisdom in these secrets being concealed so that people who are not ready to hear them won't be able to. Our love.
Excellent, thank you. So our next question comes from Liliana, Cleliana, if I'm saying that right, Cleana. Question, is there any message to help me expand in my life? Thank you.
Well, you may want to dance some more. It's quite easy advice, but we sense that there may have been a point in your life where you left the dancing behind. It was something you enjoyed doing, and then you may have felt like we're almost getting the image of like heavy ankle weights, and that's and that's actually, we hope, we are getting this image of the old ball and chain. So we actually sense that this may have been related to a relationship that sort of took out a little of the happiness, of the ease in your step. And so the more you can get back to this just by realizing that, well, you're free, that those ankle weights, you can actually remove them, and then just start hopping on your feet and moving to the rhythm. That is actually the way forward. It's a little more carelessness at this moment. So good cheer and much love to you, dear one.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Sophia Zhu. Do you have any exploration suggestions on this trip of mine? Thank you.
Yes. Well, we sense there's a certain relic that you may want to explore. It stems from, we are in the early 900s, and it's a type of golden shrine. So we sense that there is this type of shrine with a secret contained within it that's calling you in a sacred ancient space. So this is a type of clue for a treasure hunt that you may enjoy. Another path, or something that you may want to be aware of, is you may want to look into how the light is asking you to ease your burden. And we are actually getting the image of undressing, and it's the image of wearing very heavy winter cloaks, like the idea of being weighed down by uniforms, and then almost as a bearskin's hat, if anybody, they're worn by the royal guard here, but these types of sort of very heavy woolly clothes that you have draped yourselves in, and sort of, well, shedding those and shedding the uniform, and then sort of allowing for you to drape yourself in silks and light, going on this treasure hunt. This is kind of the easeful image that is being brought forward, and have fun in exploring this ease of being and lightness of step as you ease your burden. Much love.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. So our next question comes from Lori Riley. Is our sun helping us upgrade our DNA? I'm feeling like amazing things are happening at a fast pace. Much love.
Yes, and we are assuming that that is a sun with a U, and indeed it is, and and it is, well, essentially, because your sun, as you will discover at some point, is not only necessarily a self-generative process of energy, but that this energy also reaches you, well, with certain frequencies, that is not only with certain intensities or with certain variations in the solar winds, but also with different types of subtle gradations of cosmic energy. And this is also relating to our talk of ley lines. This is communicating back to the galactic center. So the sun also acts as a type of energy. We are getting the image here of a looking glass is the term. This type of glass where you will concentrate the beam into a more concentrated ray. And to some extent, well, the sun is also doing this with the energy from the galactic center, configuring and gradiating which messages are coming through. And these are then asking for changes in your DNA upgrades, though there are certain complexities also in the general, we can say, textures of time and the vibrations of physical matter that are causing these. But the sun certainly also plays an important part. And so we hope that this helped answer your question. We hope that you feel these great changes bubbling through and allowing for new fluxes of joy to move through your being. Much love.
Great, thank you. And Liliana Cleana has asked another question. She asks, what is your insight on ivermectin tablets to prevent the current global health situation? Is it safe to take? And I'll just chime in here and say whatever Ma says is not medical advice, because he's not a professional, what do you want to call it, medical person. So I think all the channels, they do that when they answer medical questions, if he decides to answer this one or not. So go ahead.
Yes, we would like to extend on behalf of our friend here his gratitude to you for putting forward that disclaimer. There might be certain implications in giving medical advice as someone who, well, doesn't even have a body. So we could in that sense say that, well, our advice is perhaps not complete in that sense, but our take on it is, as you know, that anything can be a powerful permission slip. And so if you find yourself in the exact configuration where ivermectin is exactly the thing you believe will do the trick to bring you into another space, well, then you can use ivermectin for that. There may also be some merits to treating certain diseases, viruses, and things with this preparation. But this is perhaps a very nuanced question that we sense that is better cleared in other ways. Then we would say that you may notice that, well, what often happens is when you move into these, say, more fringe layers of experimentation, is there's also an element of danger, of risk connected to your understanding of it. And this makes it somewhat of a dangerous permission slip. That is that the very fact that you may feel that you are doing something risky, well, increases the likelihood of something risky happening. And so just ask yourself, if you really are looking to medicate yourself out of this virus situation, then what are the underlying motions or motivations for choosing one medication over another? And are there perhaps other, let's say, more helpful ways of permitting yourself to go through this process that you can examine? Could you, for instance, achieve the same by eating a lot of garlic, or maybe even bananas or strawberries, something you would like? That is perspectives we will bring forward on this. Much love.
Thank you. That was helpful. So I'd like to ask another quick question here, since we've done all of our YouTube and our Zoom questions, if that's okay.
Certainly.
So we are planning a trip to Canada, most likely late summer, end of July. And I'd just like to know your perspective on where our highest good may be. And again, it could be in multiple places, but we're thinking 3 places, either Montreal or way out on the west coast of Vancouver in British Columbia, or potentially somewhere on the east coast, somewhere on the Gulf of St. Lawrence. So if you could just chime in on what would suit us best, or even 2 out of 3. Thank you.
Well, the very interesting thing that, well, we are very happy to bring forward this advice, but those of you who have been at these communications for a while have often heard our friend here marvel at the fact of these communicating patterns, these underlying patterns of energy, these synchronicities that unfold in these creations. And so recently, he has also been in contact with an individual who has connections to the island of Hawaii and is currently connected to the city of Montreal. And so there we can sense that it is just a marvel to him and a confirmation to you that, well, these Trinitarian pairs of communication actually speaks to deeper resonance patterns playing out in your existence. That is, if you find that certain people are focusing certain energies around certain places simultaneously, it is because there are, let's say, greater lines of development in the soul contracts of these respective higher selves taking place. That's a very complicated way of saying that you should definitely go to Montreal. There is an exotic experience, something in the French-Canadian wonder that you may want to discover here, and that also speaks to, well, an earlier lifetime as a trapper in the late 1600s, that where you resided in this area. Actually, well, it's not you, it's the youngest of your sons that's especially connected to the trapping energy of this area for some reason.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's where we were leaning towards as well. So we're about an hour and 20 minutes in, and all the questions have been answered. So if you'd like to give us a closing thought or two. Oh, sorry, Lori. Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I guess you didn't see me in the chat.
No, I didn't. Or if I would have, I would have gotten you. So yeah, pop on in for sure.
Do you feel up to it, Mads?
Most certainly, he is asking you to please answer the question, and he is also saying that you are so kind to apologize. Please do ask. We are here to communicate.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So I have been thinking about Hathor and some of the things that I think I'm aware of about her. It's being part of the Sophia dragon tribe and a shapeshifter, and working through Lemuria and Egypt and Sirius. And so I know that there's part of myself that has had time as a shapeshifter. So I'm wondering if there's a shared history with Hathor and myself. And if so, is there any particular part or parts of that history that are coming forward at this time to support my purpose in this lifetime?
Well, here is the mystery of it. It's because you were speaking to and we hope we are not. At least he is saying that he hopes that we are not now divulging information. But you were speaking about having trouble with your hemoglobin levels recently, and well, a part of this has to. It's actually the sacred sacrifice of the milk. It's this idea of the sacred milk, of this purifying white liquid. And you must remember that a pure bright white color can actually be quite difficult to come upon in nature. You find it in certain lilies, but it is quite a pristine color, and it's sort of this blank surface that you have spent many lifetimes. It's a very particular energy with you, because it deals with the fact that you have spent so many lifetimes in servitude, also draining yourself from some of this vital instinct. And now what you are feeling is that there's almost a return to the law of the blood. That is a movement from the milk to the blood. It's sort of an image of this increased vitality, and this is what's being activated. So you may actually want to, well, any way you can conjure up what is bloody, that is, for instance, eating blood oranges, or drinking blood grapes, or things like this would be helpful. But actually allowing yourself to purge this purity from you and paint it red, so to speak.
That's very, very timely. Thank you so much.
Thank you as well. We are very happy to have been of service. And so do you, Laura, or do anyone else have any questions that you would like to pose to us this evening?
So there's one more that popped on YouTube here real quick, if you'd like to take that, and then you can wrap it up.
Yes.
It's from Biot Joan 03. Hi, can I get healing for my throat chakra?
Yes. Here you go. And we are kidding again, because we are playing around with permission slips, and we are very happy to do this energy transmission to you and to all of you gathered here. That was a slight opening and readjustment directed at your throat chakra. And you may sense, all of you, that, well, you are allowing yourself to speak your truth to a higher and higher degree. It may have surprised you somewhat in the beginning that all of a sudden you just felt yourself saying things that you would normally edit yourself from saying or censor yourself from saying, and now you are announcing yourself, and it may feel a little vulnerable, but this is really stepping into the light. This is the idea of, again, never a bad day, that what's moving through you is always what needs to be moving through you. And this is, of course, not an encouragement to be unkind or uncaring or inconsiderate or inconsiderate of what you are saying, but it is a deep encouragement to actually feel the energies that are present in every moment of your experience, and allow for these energies to find the expression that they are seeking through you. This is the miracle of divine creation. In this moment of divine communion between the infinite and the temporal, you are seated in the middle, releasing this process into the miracle of reality. And so we will direct a further tonal invocation, certain configurations of light frequencies we will transmit to you. In this miracle of shining reality, we have shared a moment, a glimpse of light has gone around. It has reached all of us. It has been seen. It has grown, and it is going back, traveling to the galactic center with the truth and insight that has been shared and explored here today. Therefore, with the deepest gratitude for this creation, for this beautiful unfolding, for this sacred moment, we thank you for having been here with us. We, the Intergalactic Council of Light, we transmit our love, our blessings, and our guidance to you this day, sweet human brothers and sisters. Farewell. I don't know if that was just me, but I feel like they had a very mellow energy today, and maybe it was also just all of y'all and your positive energy, and that was very mellow, but it was very appreciated. And thank you for beautiful questions and for moderating, Kevin. And I know planning is it's not always quite as good as it could be, but this Sunday, if you are one of the top layer patrons, there will be a private gathering over there at the regular time of day, and I also hope to. I think there actually might be a live stream next Sunday, but I need to check it out. Other than that, it will be in one of the following days. But I am looking forward to that. So much love, and thank you for being with me here today, guys. And see you. Catch you on the flip side.
Thank you, Mads. Thank you. See you on Sunday.
See you on Sunday. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, likewise. I won't be there. I'll probably pop a few questions via email. So thanks for doing it.
Please do, brother. Please do. Perfect.
Yeah. Great.
And thank you for moderating, Kevin. And have a good day, whatever's left of it, wherever you are.
Yes, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.